Good morning. Welcome again to our class, Becoming the Market Expert, using your member benefit of InfoSparks and FastStats. I'm your host, Anthony. I work here at Orange County Realtors, been here now for almost 20 years, started off in the MLS department, guaranteed I'll speak to everybody attending today regarding rules, regulations, violations, all that fun stuff. What I'm also involved with is our outreach program. Our outreach program is designed to give you training on all your tools and products. Not only do I train on MLS, how to run searches, how to modify listings, create CMAs, all that fun stuff, but I also train on zip forms. I and my fellow coworker Leo Luera are zip form certified trainers here at the board. So usually every other month we have training on the basics of zip forms, how to put together a transaction electronically, how to digitally sign them, and of course, all the advanced tools that zip forms has to offer. And of course, I love training on tech. I love showing agents how they can utilize their technology tools to better have great transactional experiences. And my job also is to help you guys start go paperless in your business. Now, what I usually mean by that is to maybe not get rid of paper fully, but maybe get rid of enough of it that makes your lives a lot easier. And utilizing your tablets, your mobile devices, things like that, to look up properties, write up contracts. And of course, what we're going to do today is talk about marketing. Now, today, what we're going to do here real quickly is we're going to go through this presentation, okay, get you to think about things, talk about what InfoSparks and FastStats is, and of course, and then what we're then going to do is I'm going to show you how to access this product and how to utilize this product in a way to become that market expert, to talk about information, things like that, that your clients today want to know about. Okay. So with that said, bear with me here. We've got a fun bit of 2 hours today to go over a lot of things in detail. I'm going to show you the info. You can utilize it in your marketing. And then, of course, I'm going to then also show you how to utilize FastStats. And it looks like I'm having some issues here. Can everybody hear me okay? Just want to make sure my microphone is going well. Can everybody hear me? I can hear you. Awesome. Thanks, Leo. Totally appreciate that. Now, by the way, before we jump into everything, we are recording today's session. Everybody attending today will get a copy of today's recording. But if you would also like to get an email copy of today's presentation, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. Just shoot me a quick email, tony@ocrealtors.org, and I'll be more than happy to email you a copy of today's presentation. So with that said, what is InfoSparks and FastStats? Well, InfoSparks and FastStats is OC Realtors' free member benefit that provides you all MLS statistical data that you can use to show the market realities. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that InfoSparks and FastStats uses 100% MLS information. There is no other outside influence or information being used to come up with these stats. So this is 100% pure data, which is one of the many reasons why CRMLS has very strict rules about accuracy of information. Now, what's also very interesting is that this information is updated every month for the prior month, meaning that information that we're looking at today, or that was updated at the beginning of, say, February, we're going to be looking at January's numbers. Okay. Come March, the information is going to be automatically updated and show February's numbers, so on and so forth. Okay. So this information is going to be updated every month. Okay. Now, FastStats, which are printable PDF documents, are updated around the 10th of every month, give or take a day or two. The InfoSparks is a lifetime update, which is updated by the 3rd of every month for the prior month. Okay. Now, speaking of accuracy of information, how accurate are these public websites? I know one of the biggest things that consumers love to do is to go to these public websites and think, geez, it shows that my home could be worth this much, or says that it should be worth this much, but then how accurate is that information? Now, real quickly here, Mei Chu asks, please forward the recording today. They will. I can't guarantee that we can get it out today because it will need to be compiled, uploaded, and then forwarded in the follow-up email, which I do believe goes out by either later today or tomorrow, Mei. So you should have it by tomorrow. Okay. All right. So how accurate are these public websites? Well, funny enough, they are very upfront about how inaccurate they are. Just to show you an example of what I mean here. On one of these public websites, the estimate basically indicates here for active listings to be within 20% of the list price. They are 99.5% accurate. Now, when we think about that here around LA, Long Beach, Anaheim, Orange County area, to be within 20% of a list price of someone's home. Now, if we think about this, 20%, that goes in two different directions, 20% positive, 20% negative. That means that they are off to be with, or I should say, to be 100% accurate of a 40% value. So that means that if they say that your home is estimated value is about $1 million plus or minus 20%, that's a $400,000 gap in that home value. $200,000 positive, $200,000 negative. Now, I don't know about you all, but to be plus or minus $400,000 or $200,000 in your largest owned asset, how often would you tend to trust that estimate? Anybody? And you can just give me a quick show of hands. So, and by the way, most consumers don't go out of their way to see how inaccurate this information is. As a matter of fact, when it comes to their closed values, they're only 90% accurate to be plus or minus 20% of what that home should have closed for. And again, 10%, or 90% accurate, or accurate about 90% of the time to be within a $400,000 value of what that home should have closed for. So again, we can show how inaccurate these websites are, these estimations are, which is why consumers really need to listen to you, the professional. You have access to the most accurate information at all times, meaning you can actually show, like with a CMA, what people are actually listing their homes for, how fast they're getting into escrow based on their list prices, and of course, what they're actually closing escrow for, to come up with a more accurate estimation of what this home or their home should be listed at and what it should hopefully close at. This is why consumers need to start listening to you, the professional. Now, this also means that you as a professional need to be really up to date with what's actually going on in your market. Now, there are a lot of financial people out there, right, talking about what's going on in the market. But again, and you can use that based on their expertise about what's happening in the broader scheme. But really, you really need to dive down and get to know your markets. Now, this is where these stats come in, InfoSparks and FastStats. Now, you can use the statistical information to help you elevate your online presence. Using statistical data with these reports, this is going to increase your credibility as a real estate agent and a real estate professional. This is also going to help have better client interactions with people, because when you start quoting information that you have access to, they're going to have to listen to you. And a lot of cases is going to have a way easier interaction with your clients. And of course, you're going to be able to manage expectations. Hey, it's going to take you 15 days to get an escrow at this price because those are what the averages are. Or it's going to take you 30 days if we are listing it at this price. Right? So it's way better than saying, hey, why can't we get this home in escrow right now? And you've only listed it an hour ago. Now we're going to dive down into this just a little bit. How do you elevate your online presence, or basically elevate your presence as a real estate agent in general? We're going to encourage you to distribute out this data. Distribute it through all your means. You got to constantly distribute out this data, right? Push these stats on your social media, put it on your website, hand it out at an open house, door knock with this information. When it comes to social media or even internet marketing, how many people on your social media platforms, say like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, how many people do not know that you're in the real estate industry? Anybody? Has anybody not talked about real estate at all on any of those platforms? And you can be truthful, just raise your hand. I'll give you a minute. I see one person. Okay. Not to worry. Just know, like on Facebook, 2.4 billion people belong to Facebook. If you're not telling 2.4 billion people that you're in the real estate industry, how would you ever expect to get business from that platform? Or maybe you're not door knocking and you haven't begun any marketing. Secret agents do not do any business or a lot of business at all, if at all. We have to tell people that we're in the real estate industry. We have to show them that we're here. Don't be shy about it, because this is your job. Now, with these stats, you can apply your personal branding, your logos to these reports, right? Edit the PDF documents that you have access to. There are tons of ways of doing that. And given time today, I'm going to show you how easy it is to modify a PDF file. Okay. You can promote property stats of the area, right? Now you have access to, when it comes to the FastStats, two types of reports. One is called the local market update report, which is a beautiful one-page report combining all the stats together. Or, excuse me, if you're really into analytics and really into data, you can actually access what they call the monthly indicator report, whereby it breaks down all the stats into a beautiful 15-page document for the county. Now, you can use these types of stats whether in digital format or print. So you can put the reports on your website, your social media, hand it out in open house, door knock with the material, do whatever you need to with it to get that information out there. Now, in doing this, this is going to increase your credibility. Okay, now how does that happen? Well, you're going to be able to position yourself as the market expert by including stats in all of your marketing materials, whether it's online or print versions. Now, using this information will complement your experience. And I don't care if your experience is you've only been a month in the business or you've been 30 years in the business. Especially for those of you who have, who've been agents for a fairly long time, over a year, you've got to show that expertise. Well, that's where the data is going to come in to help complement that experience. 1 monthers, this is how you begin to project that you have experience, because you're going to know and dive into your markets. Now, how do you do this? Well, we give you the information. You can interpret it however you see fit. Now, this is a big one, because I know when it comes to statistical data, a lot of agents say they are intimidated by talking about statistical data. And I ask them why. And it's their number one response: I don't know how to read it. And I go, well, what do you see in the market? Based on the numbers that you see, what is it that you as the agent see the market doing? Now, with that said, the interpretation comes down to some of you will see positive in the market, others of you will see negative. Depending on what you see, that's the type of clientele you are going to be attracting, because that's what the way you're going to be talking about the information. Home prices are going up. That's great. Sellers, great time to sell right now because you're going to get top dollar for your property. Or, geez, home prices are constantly going up. Buyers, this is not a great time to buy because what you can afford, you can't afford. Affordability is bad. Da 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 da. You're talking to two types of different clients in two different ways. Now, by the way, you don't have to know every stat. As a matter of fact, all you need to do is just at least one stat to make you the expert. And by the way, own that stat. Looking at that stat, your interpretation of that particular statistic, that's what's going to make you the market expert. Because others will start to see from your perspective of what you see the market doing based on that statistic. Yes, is it good to know other stats? Yes, but do you have to? No. And that's a big misconception with a lot of people. You don't have to know every statistic, but knowing one, maybe two, is good enough. Own it. Now, you are the expert. How? Because with these stats, you're going to answer all the popular questions. Is it a buyer's seller's market? What stat are you going to look at? Maybe the month's supply of inventory. How do property types compare? Well, here in Orange County, attached and detached are great to compare. Why? Because as we all know, here in Orange County, you can have condo attached properties, but also condo detached properties. Just like you can have single family detached properties and single family attached. Usually attached properties are around the same price point, just like detached properties are around the same price point. Are prices going up or down? Median sales price. How long is it going to take to sell up my house? Well, you're going to look at the days on market. How much am I asking price as a seller am I going to get when I list my home? Well, you're going to look at the percentage of list price being received or the original list price being received. And of course, when do you have the most options as a buyer? You're probably going to look at inventory. Now, real quickly, and don't be shy, how many of you have been asked at least one of these questions? No one here today has been asked any of these questions? Hello, is the mic on? Has anybody been asked any of these questions before? Leo, are you able to hear me okay right now? Yes, all right, good. Good. Kimberly's raised her hand that she's been asked at least one of these questions. Excellent. If not all of them, right? Good. All right. Now, expectation management. This is a big one. You got to manage the client interactions, right? How do you do that? By managing their expectations. You can use the various metrics like days on market, median price, percentage of original list price being received, or inventory, right? You're going to be able to impress clients at a listing appointment with these market realities. It's great to have a CMA, but you know what? It's even better when you start talking about other stats that are affecting the area. Not just what's going on in the neighborhood, but compare this property to the rest of the area of the city, or compare this property to what's happening to the rest of the city that this property resides in. And of course, how does that stack up to the county? You're also going to be able to provide with information, provide a client with the necessary education to empower them to make a well data-driven decision. Now, how does this benefit you as an agent? Well, it benefits you by enhancing your negotiating power, not just with clients, but even with other agents. How often have you found yourself trying to negotiate an offer or negotiate a list price? And if you didn't know your market, you kind of felt that the other person was in the driver's seat. That's a horrible feeling, right? But can you imagine if you know your market and you know what's going on in the market and the pricing and the inventory and everything like that, and the other agent on the other side doesn't know? Now, how much power do you have over them to negotiate better deals? Or even better yet, the client who goes, well, I went to this website and it said this, but then when you show them actually what's going on, then now all of a sudden you're more in the driver's seat and they're more willing to pay you on your commission rather than take it away from you. Now, by the way, statistics, you're going to be able to connect with those analytical personalities. How many of you have the analytical client that just loves seeing numbers? Probably at least one or two of your clients, right? Give out this information to them. Now, by the way, not only can you connect with those analytical personalities, but you're going to be able to connect and guide those emotional decision makers. Hey, the numbers don't lie. Let's not get overly emotional about what's going on. Let's be patient and develop a good strategy to conquer the situation because of this data. Now, ultimately, this is going to benefit your clients by reducing their anxiety, but guess what? It's also going to reduce yours. Because how often do you as the agent also take on your client's emotions? How many of you here today have lost sleep when you listed a property for a client and the client has bugged you about why haven't they gotten any offers yet? And it's only been a couple of days or a couple of weeks, right? I'm sure you've lost many a sleep about that. Well, guess what? Looking at this data and looking at these stats, you can now say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it's going to take us an average of 20 days to get into escrow, and we're only at day 2. And because of where we're at in our pricing, where the market is, this is why it's probably going to take you around that time to get into escrow. So let's just be patient and see what happens. Let's let our other marketing tools kick in that I've promised you to be able to sell your home and get you into escrow, hopefully around that 20-day mark or even sooner. Now, all of a sudden, you can sit back and just still be in charge. All right, real quickly, anybody here, now this is going to require class participation. Anybody know the difference between a seller's market, buyer's market, and a balanced market? And you can write that in the chat if you wish. But I'm most curious to see what people say. So what makes a seller's market, what makes a buyer's market, and what makes a balanced market? Anyone? And again, don't be shy. Kimberly, Arnold, Jennifer, Ming, Martha, Yi. Let's see. Will says, thank you for responding, Will. Low housing inventory, seller market. Pretty good. I like that. Kimberly, inventory. Excellent. Yes, that has a huge, that's half of it, right? It's the supply, but then what's the other key factor there? A low inventory is all well and good, but there's also another factor here to make it a seller's market or even a buyer's market. And both of you have at least half the answer. There we go, Arnold. That's it. Demand. Got two parts. Because, Will, you can have a low inventory, but if you have no demand for that low inventory, prices aren't going to go up or anything, right? So it's not necessarily a seller's market without that demand, right, for that inventory. So it really comes down to supply and demand. Okay. So here, a seller's market is when you have very low inventory, but a lot of demand for that inventory. You can't put enough properties on the market or have enough in your store before it's taken off the shelves, right? And then what happens to pricing? Starts to skyrocket, starts to shoot straight up right away. Now, in the nation, a seller's market is when you have less than 5 months worth of inventory in the MLS. Now, you may or may not know this, but Orange County is the microclimate of the real estate world. And as a matter of fact, it's very interesting that whatever happens here in Orange County begins to filter out and cause the ripple effect to the rest of the nation. So usually things happen here first before it happens to the rest of the nation. Now, a seller's market, again, in the nation is when you have less than 5 months worth of inventory. But here in Orange County, it's less than 3 months worth of inventory. Now, a buyer's market, which is opposite, says you have more inventory than than there is demand to take that inventory off. So not as many people interested, but more and more people are listing. Then all of a sudden, what happens to prices? It starts to sharply drop. Now, what makes a buyer's market in the nation? More than 6 months worth of inventory in an MLS system. Here in Orange County, this is more than 4 months. Now, a balanced market is when you have enough supply that meets a fairly steady demand, that inventory is coming on and off the market at a steady pace. So now you no longer get sharp peaks in pricing or deep drops in pricing. You hopefully have a steady increase over time in pricing. Now, in the nation, a balanced market is between 5 and 6 months worth of inventory. Here in Orange County, it's between 3 and 4 months. So we're going to be able to look at this to be able to have a better understanding, or look at the month supply of inventory and inventory in general, looking at the demand to be able to determine in our little niche areas, not just the county, but the cities and everything else, if we're in seller markets, buyer markets, or balanced markets for those particular areas. Okay. It may be a seller's market in Orange County, but maybe the city you're marketing in, it might be a balanced market or a buyer's market, which is perfectly feasible. So we're going to be able to look at those stats to be able to determine these things. Okay. Now, support your recommendations. Here, you're going to be able to compare your local market, like the CMA, or local market, to the regional numbers. So your CMA versus the area stats versus the city stats, and then of course the county. So how this home stacks up to the neighborhood, how this home stacks up to the area within the city that they reside in, and how this home stacks up to the city that they live in, and of course how this home stacks up to the rest of the county. Now, this will enable you guys and gals to dive deeper into your niche markets by displaying and emphasizing stats to your target market. Remember, we give you the information, you interpret it. This is going to how you interpret it is how you're going to grab that niche market. People will gravitate to your message You've just got to put that message out there. Now, in answering these emotional points of pricing and forecasting, basically looking at the stats, we can look at these stats going back a few years. So now all of a sudden we can show trends because the trend is your friend. Are these things normal that we're experiencing? Are these things usual of what to expect? These are things that we can talk about and show so that people don't get scared and frightened and become overly emotional. Because when you start becoming overly emotional about what you need to do, you start making rash decisions. This is where clients need to depend on their real estate agents to help them not make overly emotional decisions. This is why we now not only help them buy, sell, lease properties as real estate professionals, but we become educators to help that client empower themselves to maintain control over their decisions. Now, by the way, are there any questions so far? Now, by the way, your personal marketing, you're going to be able to support your business and yourself. Why? Because you can now compare your personal stats versus the market averages. Maybe Yi has this nice little trend that she gets into escrow maybe within 5 days of listing a property because she knows her market. She knows how to price aggressively and knows exactly what needs to be done to get that home into escrow quickly. Yet everybody else in the market takes anywhere from 7 to 14 days to get into escrow. So now in her marketing, she can show, if you list with me, I can almost guarantee that I can get your home into escrow within 5 days versus everybody else who's taking 14 days. Excuse me. Now, be innovative with the stats. Now, this is where I tell agents you don't have to give information boringly. I'm sure we've all watched the news. We've all watched like some sort of business show or whatever talking about the market. And if you're like me, you listen to it for about 5 minutes and then it puts you right to sleep. Do you want to put clients to sleep? No. This is where we can have fun and be innovative on how we want to display the stats and talk about the stats. Maybe some of you here today, and you can raise your hand if you want. Excuse me. Maybe some of you love making flyers or you're into infographics or anything like that. Because by the way, there are tons of tools out there that are free that you can make infographics from, where you can put these stats into just to display it differently. Maybe you like to do videos. Martha, do you like doing videos? Have you done a video before? Maybe. Well, maybe you sit down in front of the camera and you say, hey, today's a monthly update about the market. Let's talk about a couple of these numbers. Now you can connect people with people through the electronic platforms. Now, in doing this and being innovative, you're producing your own content, right? That's really important for marketing. Why should your information look the same as everybody else? Because you're using some sort of advertiser who uses a blanket template for everybody that they're doing advertising for. This is what's going to make you stand out. If you produce your own content in a fun, innovative way, this is going to help you stand out. Now, by the way, know your stuff because it's going to show. If you hand out information, statistics, and somebody goes, what does this mean? And the answer out of your mouth is, I'm not sure. Number one, that just is going to shoot your credibility in the foot. But number two, the client's going to go, or the potential client's going to go, well, why are you handing me this stat if you don't know what you're handing out? Know the stat that you're going to be handing out, or know the stats that you're handing out. Because the moment you're asked a question about it, you should be able to confidently answer those questions. Now, as you answer these questions and you hand out this information, you're going to be creating an influential reputation within the market. If people know that you're doing this consistently, they know what to look for. They know where to look for it at, whether it's on your website, whether it's on your YouTube channel, whether it's on your Facebook business page, wherever you need to put this information. This is how you're going to be able to create that influential reputation. Hey, Tony's coming out every third of the month or the fourth of the month talking about information. I better tune in to see what the market's like right now. Again, marketing, knowing your information, that's going to strengthen your negotiating power with potential clients, with current clients, and with other agents. And ultimately, this is how you're going to be able to own the segments in your market, in your local areas. Are there any questions on this? Looks pretty fun. Do I have everybody excited? I have no one excited. Thanks, Leo. I totally appreciate that. All right. So now, the big question of the day, how do I access InfoSparks? How do I access these FastStats? What do I need to do? Well, first, let's tackle the InfoSparks. InfoSparks is accessible through the MLS system. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go into CRMLS. We're going to log in to the MLS system. From here, as we log in, to access FastStats, we could do that in several ways. One of the ways here from the home screen is come over to the external links widget here on the home screen, scroll down and click on where it says InfoSparks Market Statistics. The other way is coming over to the top or coming up to the top where it says links, clicking on where it says links. Now we can access all of our third-party member benefits offered to us by CRMLS and Orange County Realtors. We're going to scroll right on down this entire list, and then we're going to look for where it says InfoSparks, and we're going to click on this icon. Now, once we click on InfoSparks here, InfoSparks is going to open up for us. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. There we go. And we're going to see some things here right away. Number one, we're going to see over here to the top left that we're looking at the entire MLS database. We're looking at all property types, attached and detached, all bedrooms, bathrooms, all price ranges, this, that, and the other. And we see here down below that the current stat that we're looking at is the median sales price. And we see here that in the median sales price in the month of January for the entire MLS was $718,000, up 14% from January of 2021. Now, I know the immediate first thing that you're thinking about right now is, Tony, there is no way in heck that home prices, the median home price is at $718,000, especially here in Orange County. You're absolutely right. Remember, we're looking at the entire MLS database. The entire MLS database is not just Orange County. It is LA County, Riverside County, San Bernardino, San Diego, Ventura, Palm Desert, Palm Springs, Fresno, East Bay. We have more than 200,000 listings in our MLS database. We have about 30 different MLS systems, or 15 MLS systems, sorry, that actually data share with CRMLS. So how do we narrow this down to the region that I need to be concerned for? Well, we're going to come over here to the top left where it says entire MLS. We're going to click on the down arrow. And now what we can do is start to filter out information. We can filter out information by county, by city, by zip code, by MLS area. We even have a section here for what is called My Areas. Now, My Areas are mapped out sections that you were looking for yourself. And we'll go over how to make a My Area in just a few moments. But say we wanted to look at city statistics or city information. Here, what I can now do is select city. And now I can come back over to the top here where it says entire MLS, and we see my cursor blinking. Now I can type in the city that I want information for. So maybe in this case, I want something for, oh, I don't know. Let's go Corona Del Mar. Now, as I type in the city of Corona Del Mar, we see the city come up. We click on it. And now we see here in Corona Del Mar, the median sales price is $3,800,000, up 38% from January of 2022. Now remember, that might still sound a little low for your area if you're marketing that area. And as a matter of fact, let's go with a different area here. Let's go actually with Irvine, because I like dealing with Irvine from time to time. Here we go. In Irvine, under all property types, attached and detached, we're at $1,250,000, up 38.9% compared to a year ago. Now, maybe in this case, we've got people who are marketing a particular type of property, like May Chu. Are you dealing with attached properties more often, or are you dealing with detached properties? Single family, condo? What properties do you tend to try to market more to? Detached? Okay, good. So here what we can now do is underneath that city that we just typed, we can now apply a filter, like in this case, detached. And we see that the numbers now fully changed. And we see here that detached in Irvine, the median sales price in January of 2022 was $1.7 million, up 50% compared to a year ago. Thanks, me. So if you bought your property a year ago, you've gained 50% of equity than what you bought your home at. Now we see here down below, or somewhat down below, a line graph. Now what's super cool about this is that we see on this, next to this line graph, what the current stat is, January of 2022, Irvine, the median sales price number, and its percentage of change from a year prior. Now, what you could do, looking at this line graph, we see that the numbers keep going up, right? Well, if I move my mouse over top of that line graph, we get to see what the month's number is. So in this case, January of 2022, 1.7 million. As I move down this line graph or across this line graph, we see that in December of 2021, just a mere 2 months ago, the median sales price was at 1.512. November, 1.4, 1.3, 1.4, 1.3. So if we go all the way back to January here of 2021, the median sales price at the time in 2021 was $1.130 million. So if you had a client buy a property last year in Irvine that was a detached property, they probably spent around 1.13 million to buy the property, but today their home is now worth 1.7, up almost $600,000 in just 1 year's time. As a matter of fact, if we go here and we look, we can actually look at information back all the way to 2017. So if you bought your home 5 years ago, you probably bought it for around or a little over $1 million. So in 5 years, you've gained $700,000 in equity. Not a bad investment. Anybody impressed with that? No one's impressed with that one? Is that a shocker for a lot of people? Couple of us. All right. So now what can we do here? Well, we can do several things, okay? Now, maybe you're marketing in different cities. Maybe you want to show how cities stack up against each other. You can do this. You'll notice that next to where I typed in Irvine, there's a choice here that says add an area. So what I can now do is click on add an area, and now maybe type in the name of another city that I want to compare Irvine to. So maybe, let's go with Lake Forest. Here we find Lake Forest. We see the city. We can now select it. Again, select Detached, and we can now see a side-by-side comparison. Here in Lake Forest, 1.2 million, up 34%, versus Irvine, 1.7 million. Now, by the way, we see them on the line graph, what their previous numbers were, going back again those 5 years. If we are what we can also do is compare a third city and maybe a fourth city. All you need to do is just keep choosing add an area. Now, by the way, you don't have to compare city to city. What you can also do is maybe compare this city, but maybe the individual MLS areas within that city, like Turtle Rock. So here I can click in the box and say, okay, Turtle Rock. Excuse me. We find the MLS area of Turtle Rock, which is within Irvine. So we can now say that, geez, in Irvine, for detached properties at 1.7, but Turtle Rock is at 1.9, up only 3%, versus the entire MLS. Or maybe instead of just the MLS, we look at Orange County as a whole. And we see here that in Orange County, the median sales price in January was 1.2 million, up 23.7%, versus Irvine at 1.7, versus Turtle Rock at 1.9. So in marketing and coming up with things to talk about, hey, if you live in the area of Turtle Rock in Irvine, your median sales prices are at 1.9 million, up only 3%, versus Irvine in general at 1.7, but everybody else in the county is at 1.2. So you live in a more expensive area within the city and live in a more expensive area compared to the rest of the county. So you can almost sell your home and maybe buy another home almost all cash and still have money in your pocket at the end of the day, living in a different area, this, that, and the other. Now, what we can also do, we can also apply multiple filters. Maybe we know that there are different property types of detached homes. So what we can also do is create statistics based on bedrooms. So maybe here what we can now do is selected multiple different bedrooms. Now what we could do here real quickly is come over to the number of bedroom filter, and you'll notice here that there is a two-way arrow here right next to that filter. Simply click on the two-way arrow, and what now happens is it selects everything in this filter. And we now see that under the median sales price, there are no one-bedroom detached properties. So maybe we just deselect that. But two-bedroom detached properties is at $770,000, up 3.4% in Irvine. Three-bedroom properties are at 1.3, up 51%. And of course, four-bedroom or more properties are at 1.924, up 34%. So if you have a home and you're looking to either upgrade or downgrade, this is kind of what you're looking at in terms of median sales price. give me a call today. I'd love to sit down with you and go over what your home might actually be worth. Anybody like this so far? Any questions so far? No questions? You guys are, am I overwhelming everybody? What's the seller side, the buyer side? Let me see here. Seller side, seller side, seller side. Where do you see that? Oh, the filter. Let me see here. Here on the seller side of the transaction, you can see what the median sales price is if you're representing the seller side. And here, this is coming up. If you're doing the buyer side, agents representing the buyer side for your stats. This is mostly for internal usage, where you can kind of get an average. I'm not overly fond of this particular filter. I don't know why they added it, other than it helps an agent understand that if they represent the seller, this is kind of what they're looking at based on their stat. If they're representing the buyer side, this is kind of what they're looking at. Helps them kind of promote their own personal stats against the side that they're trying to represent. Does that make sense, Yi? Or did that help answer your question? Maybe. Okay. All right. Let's see here. By the way, we're just looking at one stat. Remember how I was telling you just knowing one stat can make you the market expert? Yeah, just good at what you do. Thank you. This only applies when you check a realtor stats. Yes, Yi, this really only applies, actually, not just realtor stats, but if you're trying to say, look, when I represent the sellers, agents are getting around this, right? And you can always go into the MLS and show your individual numbers, right, on your side, or depending on who you represent. On average, this is what other agents are getting for their buyers or for their sellers, versus this is what I get for my sellers or my buyers. Brokers can use these as well, which is fine, because it kind of gives them a direction on how to talk to their agents about what to expect in the market if they're representing a particular client, seller, buyer, things like that. So yes, it could be used for that. Yes. All right. By the way, here, so we're seeing these median sales prices, right? 1.7 up 50%. Well, let's take a look at the other stats real quickly. Active inventory. So here in the month of January, we see that the active inventory in Irvine was only 97 properties, down 63% from a year ago. So if we look here real quickly, January of last year, you had 264 properties on the market. So one could make an argument that because of the low inventory of 97 properties, this is probably why home prices have skyrocketed. And if we look at that active inventory list, inventory just seems to keep dropping. Now, granted, between December, which was at 66 properties active for sale, it jumped up 30 properties or 31 properties in 1 month. But it's still very low compared to a year ago. As a matter of fact, even 5 years ago, you had 319 properties up for sale. So severely anemic. So if there's no inventory, we're dealing with demand. It's going to keep raising those prices. Here, how many listings got successfully into escrow? 81 properties got successfully into escrow, down 43%. Even though it went up by 3 or 4 listings, it's still very low. Why? Affordability. Home prices keep going up. Not everybody can afford a $1.7 million loan or have the cash to buy a $1.7 million property. Just looking at it a year ago, 5 years ago, 83 properties went into escrow. The peak was in March of last year at 225 properties getting into escrow. Well, why is that? Well, look at the sales prices back in March. 1.3, $400,000 cheaper than it back then than it was today. Right? And again, active inventory, March of 2021, you had 229 properties. So a lot more choice. Closed sales, 84 properties successfully closed escrow, down 31% versus January of last year, which was at 123 properties. So not as many people closing, not as many people getting into escrow, home prices keep going up, inventory is still very low, so on and so forth. Now, days on market, listing agents, 9 days to get into escrow at $1.7 million. January of 2021 took you 12 days. Still amazing. Back in 2017, it took 63 days to get into escrow. Amazing, isn't it? Now, month supply of inventory, 0.6 months. What does that say? What type of market are we in today then? Anybody remember? What determines the buyers, sellers, or balanced market? Arnold? Will? Leo? You're right, demand supply. But remember that chart that I showed you? What is considered a seller's market, buyer's market, balanced market was the month supply of inventory. So are we in a seller's market, buyer's market, or a balanced market based on the current month supply of inventory? Absolutely correct, Arnold. It's a seller's market. Less than 3 months worth of supply of inventory. As a matter of fact, we're less than a month's supply of inventory. Now, how do you interpret something like that to a client who doesn't understand the full supply and demand here, right? Well, month supply of inventory is figured out this way. The number of pending sales is divided by the number of closed sales. So that's how they figure out that number. Now, what does this number mean? Means that if there was no new listings coming, it's the number of active listings divided into, I think, the pending sales. So you take the active inventory and you divide it into the number of listings getting into escrow. Now, how this can be interpreted is that if we add no new inventory as of today, how fast would you burn through the inventory at the rate that you're going? So in this case, it would take you less than it would take you about a half of a month, basically 2 weeks, to eat through 97 properties at 81 escrows per month. And that's with the understanding if there were no new listings coming on the market as of today. So this is really vital as to go out there and try to find somebody who wants to list their home. Because without inventory, nobody can buy anything. There's no choice. Home prices will be even higher than expected. Now, listing agents, percentage of original list price, percentage of last list price being received. So how much of your list price are you getting for the seller? Now, what's the difference between these two? Percentage of list price basically says, or original list price is how much of my close or how much of my original asking price did I get at the time that it closed, not taking into account any price changes. So as an example, say Leo lists a property for $1 million, but then he ends up closing escrow at $800,000. How much of his original list price did he get at time of close? What is it? 80%, right? Now you take that same listing that Leo listed at 1 million, but then at the time that he closes for 800,000, the current list price of the listing was 880,000, down from that million. So how much of his list price did he get at time of closed? Probably closer in the 90s, right? Excuse me. So this is going to be really helpful to show a potential seller how dialed in agents are in the market when they list a property. So if we look here at the original list price, we see here that homeowners are getting 4% above their original asking price. So they're really not changing the list price at all, other than the list price is actually, or they're getting more than what they're originally listing at. Versus them getting 3% or 3.8% more of their current list price. So maybe you increase the list price just a little bit because, geez, you got like 30, 40, 50 offers. You want to kind of see how many more offers. So you raise the price, your list price just a tad. Now, number one, this is great for a seller to say, hey, this is really good. This is what we need to expect. Hopefully you'll get a little bit more than what you're asking for. So we've got a little play. But this is also great for a buyer to understand what type of offers they need to start making in order to hopefully get into escrow. Anybody here dealing with a buyer right now that just keeps lowballing all their offers? Right? And yet they're super frustrated as to why no one is countering their offer, even though they may think that it's a good offer. Well, guess what? Show them this stat. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, reason why you're not being countered is that listing agents and sellers are getting more than what they're listed at. So if you want to be competitive, you got to come a little bit above asking. I know it's not really cool, but just know that this is what we need to do to make more realistic offers. Are there any questions? All right, so now what do we do here? I see no questions. You guys are going to take it easy on me today, I see. All right, so a couple of things here real quick. We see these sharp peaks and valleys on our line graph. Maybe you don't like that, especially if we're going to be sharing this information out in just a few minutes. A lot of people really get really freaked out when they start seeing sharp peaks and deep valleys in a stat. Well, Over here in between the filter and the chart itself, we've got some things that we can do. Number one, we're looking at a month-to-month change. January to December, December to November, November to October, so on and so forth. So now we're taking into account a month-to-month change, ups and downs. Well, maybe we need to smooth this out. Click on the down arrow next to where it says monthly, and now we can say compare January, December, November to December, November, October, November, October, September, so on and so forth. Which now means that we are now going to slowly start to smooth out this line. As a matter of fact, we can do a rolling 12 months. Really smooth this out. So now a potential client seeing a line graph doesn't see a month-to-month change. Not saying that that's bad, but just some clients just don't like that. And maybe right now we see that we're looking at a 5-year change, a 5-year market trend, right? Active inventory, so on and so forth, right? Here, ups and downs, slow up and downs, and again, rolling 12 months, or we can look at a monthly change. But maybe instead of 5 years, you want to only go back 3, or just 1 year change, or max it out at, I think it's 5 years. Oh, I'm sorry. They go back all the way to 2008, which is nice. Here we can see active inventory back in 2008. You had 587 properties in Irvine up for sale versus today's 997. The median sales price, this one you guys will really like a lot. Back in 2008, the median sales price was $800,000. So in 12 years time, or I'm sorry, 14 years time, $1 million in equity. Not a bad investment. Now, if you don't like line graphs, not a problem. Switch it from a line graph to a bar graph. Now, what I like about the bar graph, number one, it maxes out at 3 years. But what's nice is it takes the stat and it gives you January, their percentage change and what that number is, versus January of 2021, what their number is or was, and then 2020. So if you bought your home back in 2020, you've gained $600,000 in equity. You gained $30,000 from 2020 to 2021, but you've really gained a lot of equity between 2021 to 2001. So I think something like this is a little bit easier for people to read and understand. Now, how do we get this information out there? The share button. Here we have several ways that we can share our individual charts and graphs. Here we can create a static PDF document or social media post to be placed in an email or on our social media platform. Here, all we need to now do is click on share. And what we're going to see here is a nice little link that we can copy and paste in an email or copy and paste on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. But just to show you what this looks like, here we go. Now you'll notice here that it's automatically been branded with my information. Well, this information is pulled from your roster in the MLS. So agents, please make sure that in the MLS system, you have your roster up to date. How do you know you update your roster? Simply be in the MLS. Go under where it says add edit. From here, under the listing section, go to where it says roster. Go to where it says roster. Under roster, there's a box here that under quick modify agent office ID. Simply click in the box and type in what your user ID is for the MLS. From here, edit your information. Upload a photo of yourself. Change your contact information. Add in your phone numbers, email addresses, websites, whatever you need for your roster, not only for the roster section, but when you create documents like through InfoSparks, it automatically is branded with your data. Now, by the way, your company logo will automatically be here where it says CRMLS. Why? Because it knows what office you're working out of. First Team, Jack and Jill Real Estate, Realty One, whatever. If they have a company logo, CRMLS is going to have that for you. Now, what's nice about this, I can now print it. I can download it. I can share it in an email, social media platform, whatever. This particular stat. If I print it, great door knocking material. If I download it, I can use a PDF editor and put it on the back of my flyer or manipulate the PDF. Shrink it onto a page. That way I can add multiple stats for my handout. Now, by any chance, does anybody have their own personal website? Anybody have their own website at all? Like, let's see. Can you show again how the share button location is? Sure, Kimberly. So here under your stats, either above the bar graph or the line graph and in between or between the filters, there's several icons here in the middle, one of which is called share. When you click on that, you can now pick how you want to share out the information. Yi, that's awesome. You've got a website. Awesome. So Yi, I'm going to ask you a simple question. On your website, what can clients see on your website? Do they see your information? Hopefully, yes. Do they see property data like the IDX feed to look and search for properties? No property data? None whatsoever? Do you, okay. What other information do you have on your website then, Yi? Kimberly, awesome. Kimberly, do you have a way for a client to search or potential client? I couldn't get the IDX link to work right. Well, definitely you want to talk to your web designer to have them talk to CRMLS to get that link to work. But is there anything else besides searching a property and your data that needs to appear? Maybe a blog, maybe a couple of videos here and there. You could add, good. You could add, but you don't have right now, right? So if I went to your website right today, like most agents, they probably have the same thing. They have no way to do a property search, or they only have just a property search on their website, right? So what makes you stand out? Well, guess what? InfoSparks. Now, what's cool about this is that here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create live embeddable links for my stats. So what I can do here under the share, select live, and now I'm going to say embed. Now, when I click share, I'm now given a link that I can copy and paste onto my personal website. Now, how does all this work? What do you mean by all this stuff, Tony? Well, let's think about it this way. Maybe your personal website, you've got the About Me section, you've got look at your listing section, but then you've got in the listing section, it broken down into other individual web pages like Irvine, Lake Forest, Mission Viejo, San Clemente, Dana Point, right? And in those individual pages, they have the featured listings, right? The just listed properties for somebody of the public to see. But now what you could do is take these links, give them to your web designer, and now you can start giving statistical data beside the properties that are currently listed. So as the example, you've got in the middle of the Irvine page, the listed properties in Irvine pulled from the IDX feed, but then to the left and to the right of those properties are the individual stats for Irvine. Active inventory, median sales price, days on market, percentage of price received, this, that, and the other. Now, because we're doing a live link in this case, what's cool about this is that today we see January's numbers. But then come tomorrow in March, those charts will automatically update with February's numbers. And then March numbers and April's and June's and July's without you having to do anything. So now what am I now doing with my website? I am now providing not just typical MLS data, but I'm now providing educational statistical data pulled from the MLS. So again, I've now become more than just an agent who's got listings or is available to show properties. I'm now an agent that has a hub of information and data. I am more than just the sum of listings. I am now an educator and data provider. People are going to see these stats in these individual cities, these counties, and areas that I'm marketing. And I can share that information. Maybe, as you was talking about, putting up a section for a blog. And I can now summarize some of the stats that I'm seeing, interpreting, things like that. Now I can put it out there. I can reference it. I can do whatever I need to. And again, I'm now pushing people to my website, so that I now become more of a data provider versus a regurgitator of the same thing that everybody else is doing. Anybody like that? Does that inspire anybody to get their website up and running a little bit better? Yes, excellent, Yi. All right. Now, before we leave InfoSparks, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the My Areas. So My Areas are basically mapped out areas that you can pull statistical data for, okay? How can I have an IDX link, Arnold? So simply go to crmls.org. From here, you're going to scroll down to where it says Solutions. When you click on View That List, hopefully, you're a CRMLS Matrix user. And from here, there should be a choice at the very top that says IDX Resource. From here, you can now apply for an option to get an IDX feed for your website. I do believe there's one that option number 1 is free. The other options are 2 vendors producing your website or designing your website, at which point there is a cost. But the very first option, there is no cost. The other options, there is some. And I think the premium one is 1. But that's how you would do it. Does that help, Arnold? You're welcome. All right, real quickly here. My areas, how do I map out the areas, like the individual neighborhoods, things like that that I'm marketing in? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this dark blue bar towards the right-hand side of the screen. I'm going to click on where it says My Areas. Now, at this point, what's going to happen is a map's going to open up. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to jump to an area by typing in an address or a street name. So maybe we want to look at, I don't know, West Yale Loop, Irvine, California. Now, it didn't zoom in like it does on our regular map searches in the MLS, but it does indicate with a little flag of where that street's located. So now what I can do is I can zoom in on the map to the neighborhood. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to now outline the neighborhood with either a polygon or a circle. Maybe in this case, a polygon, because we got nice little curvatures of the street. Now, because I'm marketing in that track, I should know based on my marketing skills, the track boundaries or the neighborhood boundaries. So here I'm selecting the polygon. I'm going to find my starting corner, and I'm now just going to outline my neighborhood. Now at this point, I'm going to save this information. Now, when I click on save, I'm now going to name it. So we'll name it whatever your track is. So maybe I'm just going to call this one the Bozo track. Now, when I click on save, it's going to analyze the area. It's going to tell me I drew a half a mile area, and I've got 4,108 listing data points to create my stats. Now, all I need to do is hit close. Now, to pull up statistics in this particular area, I'm now going to come back on this dark blue bar, click on InfoSparks to get back into InfoSparks. From here, I'm now going to come over to that entire MLS area or section, click on the down arrow, and I can now select where it says My Areas. Now, when I select My Areas, this will now give me all of the My Area sections that I created or have created in InfoSparks. So here's that Bozo track that we just created. I can now select it. It now analyzes the data, and it now gives me the stat that I need. So in this case, in the Bozo track, median sales price for the neighborhood is $1.2 million, up 49.6%. We look at the detached market, it's actually at 1.3. We look at the active inventory in the area, if there's any, there's only 2 properties in the area that are currently active, or at least was active in the month of January, down 66%, so on and so forth. So now I could share this and create a PDF file document or embed this live links for my neighborhood. If you live in the Bozo track, this is what's going on in your neighborhood. And again, I can now give out my website to people when I'm marketing. Driving by, going to the restaurants, going to a store, whatever. Hey, you want information? Go to my website, get this information. Or here it is in the back of my car. Here's the current stats. Anybody like this? Now, I know this is all about looking at just the one individual stat, but again, if you're creating static PDF documents, you can then download them and use PDF editors to merge them together if you want. Awesome, Kimberly. I'm glad you like it. Now, there's also one other thing that we'll go over here, the FastStats. I love the FastStats choice. Here under the click on FastStats here on the dark blue bar. And what's really neat about this is that we can look at statistical data in California. We can look at Northern California areas, Central, Mid-South, or Southern California. We can look at the local market one-page reports. So here, as an example, we're in Southern California. Now, by the way, these are going to be for county statistics. If we go to Southern California, what's interesting is look how big Orange County is compared to the surrounding counties in Southern California. Yet we are the ones that dictate what's going on in the entire real estate industry practically. What happens here eventually happens everywhere else. If we were to click on Orange County, here we got a beautiful one-page report compiling all the stats for single family and condo townhomes. Now, this stat here should have been updated by now with January's numbers, and I only see the December report, which isn't good. That they should have updated that by now. So I'll have to talk to CRMLS about this. But you get the idea. Here we can look at all the stats on just one lovely page. And what's cool, we can download it, edit it, take out some of the branding, and put in our own personal branding. The monthly indicator report, however, this is where we're going to dive down into the stats going back 15 to 20 years. Here we can go to the monthly indicator report, select Orange County Realtors, and now we've got an updated December 2021 report. The market snapshot, quick glance, attached versus detached, median price increases, 25%, 19%, overall together, 18.5%. We come down below, we start with the detached market first. We see the individual stats here with a nice little bar graph going back about 3 or 4 years. We come down below to page 4, and then we start diving into the individual stat itself. And what's nice about this, detached, attached market, this month, December of 2021 compared to December of 2020, and then December of 2019. And then, of course, a full year worth of information. But what's really cool about this is the line graph. The line graph goes all the way back to 2002, 2003. And you'll notice we get to see the ups and downs of the market. So again, remember that trend is your friend. So we see here, when it comes to new inventory coming on, it always starts off low in the beginning of the year, but then by mid-year, it peaks. And then by the end of the year, it starts to drop off. So we could use something like this to influence a seller. When's a good time to list? Do you want to list at the beginning or tail end of the year where there's not a lot of competition? Or do you want to list at the mid part of the year where everybody's listing, which now could be top dollar? So here we can do all that. By the way, can everybody still hear me okay? Hopefully. Good. Thank you. Sorry. All right. So here we have these lovely charts. Now, some of you may ask, well, geez, Tony, I'd like to see like a city FastStat or an MLS area FastStat for those areas. Do we have access to those? And the answer to that is yes, you do. So this is an Orange County member benefit, is that back at orangecountyrealtors.org or ocrealtors.org. From here on our main website, you're just going to move your mouse to where it says resources. A drop-down menu list appears. Click on business tools. Under the business tools, you're going to now click on where it says OC FastStats. Now, to access the FastStats, you're going to log in, but you're going to log in using your user ID and your password for Orange County Realtors' website. So if you've paid your bills online, this is the username and password that you use to log into our website to pay your bills online. Typically, the username will always be your username for the MLS. depending on your membership, and if you've changed it on the website, it should be your 4-digit PIN number that you use for your super key. So in this case, you put in your 4-digit PIN code, and then you should be able to log on. Now, if you don't know what your password is, definitely feel free to give us a call at the board, and we'll be more than happy to give you what your passwords are to log into our website. But you'll see here that with the OC FastStats, we do break it down for Orange County only. We do also break it down for the cities within Orange County, all the way up to Long Beach, all the way down to San Clemente. And if we select a city, we also get to see the individual MLS areas that are current with the MLS system to look at MLS area stats. So here, if we look at Irvine as that city, hopefully this has been updated with January's numbers. Excellent. And now we can see the individual one-page reports for attached and detached property data information that, again, we can download and use a PDF editor of some sort to apply our branding to this PDF. Upload it to our website, upload it to our social media, do a video about it, do whatever you want to. And again, I can come back and choose a particular area to look at the area stats. Are there any questions on this? Can you go back to the InfoStats? Sure, I can go back to InfoStats or InfoSparks. So here, if we go back to InfoSparks, what would you like me to look at? Show us how to get to the FastStat? Sure. Here in the InfoSparks, go on the dark blue bar at the very top of the screen, and next to where it says InfoSparks should say FastStats. When we click on FastStats, we can now select the region of California we want to pull statistical data for. Maybe Southern California or mid-Southern California, like Los Angeles, Ventura, Kern County, whatever. Because again, we're looking at county statistics. And now we're pulling up the local market update report for that county. Now I see here that CRMLS hasn't updated this report just yet with the January numbers, but you have access to that same county report on OC FastStats on Orange County's website, whereby we do have that January number displayed. Where was the web page with the different logos? So that would be back at, whoops. Didn't mean to stop sharing there. Can you all still see my screen? No? Okay. Let's see here. Let's. Great. You are recording this meeting. Okay. Well, I just want to get back to my share. There we go. There we go. All right. So back here at FastStats, to get all the logos of all the MLS systems that participate with InfoSparks, that would be under the monthly indicator section under FastStats. And here are all the individual boards and areas that participate in the FastStats. So what you could do is look at Southern California and look at their beautiful 15-page report. In this case, it looks like they still haven't updated December's numbers for there. Here for California in general, single family versus town or condo. Their stats here. And again, you can download the PDF files. Got it. Thank you. You're welcome, Yi. Are there any other questions? You also have annual reports. Annual reports are pretty interesting too. A statewide annual report is pretty amazing. So it actually gives you a nice little breakdown of all the individual counties, their changes, pending sales, new listings, quick facts. And again, great material to be able to talk about to anybody in the state of California, because you are a licensed agent. You can list, sell, buy, lease properties anywhere in the state of California. It just depends on where you want your reach. How to embed a chart in an email or newsletter, Yi. So basically what you would do with the InfoSparks is that I would probably, I would pull up your stat of what you wanted. So here, again, I'm going to type in Irvine. And then when I go to share, what I can now do is I would share a static link, either social media or PDF. And when I click on share, I can now copy and paste that link in a newsletter, or just simply view the PDF file. Now I can then download the PDF file. And then while I'm making my newsletter, I can now adjust it to place or insert it on the PDF, on the newsletter, or in the newsletter itself. Or even better yet, maybe I snap a picture of it. So here I do a picture of the stat, right? And now with my newsletter, I can now insert this picture into the newsletter where I can shrink it and adjust it. Does that help? Yes, it's definitely different from a live link because the newsletter is pertinent to that time that you created the newsletter. So if you're talking about December information or January information in this newsletter, you don't want somebody going back to your January newsletter and looking at statistical information for July. You know what I mean? So yes, that's always a static chart. The only reason why you would go live is for your website. So you want to embed live links on your website. So that way you're not having to take down charts and re-upload new charts. The charts are automatically updated with new data on your website because people are actively going to your website. They're not actively going into your newsletter unless you make a new newsletter. Does that make sense? Can you teach us how to use a stat PDF link, not a picture? So again, you can take the stat here in the PDF format and download it, or take the link that you see here, right click, copy, and while you're editing the document, say on Word, and let's just open up Word. I'm making my newsletter. And now I can just right click and paste my link or paste my chart. Same thing with an email. If I make a new email, here I can embed that link, or as I'm typing up my email newsletter, right? Right? I can then put that in my email, paste it, and they have it here. Or I take the picture, put the picture here, and then somehow hyperlink it with the link. So they have the picture, but they also then have access to the file. It's like doing a video, right? You do a video, picture of what the opening shot is of the video, but then you embed or hyperlink the yeah, I don't have a newsletter. I can't teach you something like that. That would be something that you would have to do as you're creating your newsletter. I don't know what your newsletter looks like, but I would imagine you've got a template that you've created that you can insert a picture, and in that picture you can hyperlink it. I mean, there are many different ways that you could do that. You could hyperlink it to a line of words if you wanted to. Just highlight the line of words, right click, and then there should be a feature to hyperlink. There we go. We link, and then we can select that link to now make those words to be able to click on to open up that chart. It just depends on what your email is able to do. Most emails are able to do what we just did here in Outlook. Well, if there's no other questions, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Let me get you back to my information here. If you do have any questions, please feel free to either call me or email me. My phone number is 949-586-6800. My extension is 104. Or you can email me at Tony, Tony, at ocrealtors.org. With that said, I want to thank everybody for attending today. I hope you all really enjoyed today, and I look forward to speaking with you all very soon. And I can't wait to see what type of content you all create.